This is the solution for the challenge called Challenge Simple Darts. We've got a number of requirements here spelled out for us that we reviewed in the assignment video. So let's go ahead and get started with the first assignment. Is that we're going to create a project, and the very first thing we'll create is a reusable library called Darts that could be used for other Dart games in the future. So let's go ahead and get started by creating a new project. We're calling this, let's go to web, ASP.NET Web Application, Challenge Simple Darts, empty web forms, okay. All right, and the very first thing that we wanted to do was add a new project. And that project was going to be a class library called Darts. And what we'll want to do is change this, if we take a look here, it'll contain a single class named Dart. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to rename this file to Dart, and notice that it gives me a little dialog that says, do you want to rename all references to class 1? And I'm going to click yes, and that'll change the class name from class 1 to Dart as well, which is pretty cool, refactoring. All right, so the next part is that whenever you create a new instance of Dart, you're going to pass in an instance of the system.random class to ensure that you get a true random number across the lifetime of the web page's lifecycle. All right, so that's easy enough to do. Let us go public Dart to create a constructor, and we're going to pass in a system.random instance. We want to store that off too. So let's go private random called random like that, and then all we have to do is random equals random. Great, okay. So the next part is that we're going to call a throw method. It's going to simulate the act of throwing a dart at a dartboard. The dart has an equal chance of scoring 1 through 20 or the bullseye. Okay, so let's start there. So we got a public, I think this is going to be a void, throw, and we're going to use that random instance in order to generate a score. So let's go ahead and create a public property called score. So score is going to be equal to random.next, and what we'll want to use is this overload because we wanted to include the number 0, but notice that the max value, this is something that I haven't pointed out before. This is the exclusive upper bound. It means that it's exclusive of this number. So if I put 20 in here, it's only going to go up to 19 potentially. So I'm going to put 21. That would exclude the number 21 and would include 0 to 20. It's kind of weird, but I think that's how it works. We'll have to test that out to make sure. Okay, so that satisfies that requirement. Also, the dart has a 5% chance of landing on the outer band that represents a double score and a 5% chance of landing on the inner board band that represents a triple score. And we talked about this before. This is the double ring and the triple ring, and we'll use that as a multiplier later on. For our particular game, it's used in different ways for different games. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to need is a number from 1 to 100 that will be a percentage that we'll use. So if it's in from 90 to 94, that means it's we'll say that that's a double. And then if we randomly choose a number between 95 and 100, that will be the triple band throw. Okay, so let's do int multiplier, because we just need a little variable to hold our random number in. So we'll go random.next, and we'll include 1 but not go past 100, so it'll exclude 101. And now we want to do the check. So the first check we'll do is to see if the multiplier is greater than 90, greater than or equal to 95. So it's 100, 99, 98, 97, 96. So it's got to be greater than 95. That would give us the 5% chance. Then we will need to set a flag So we already have this public int score. What I'm going to do is go prop tab tab bool is double, and then prop tab tab bool is triple. We'll use those flags for this purpose. And so the is triple flag will be set to true. Whoops, true. And then else if multiplier is greater than 90. So that would be 95, 94, 93, 92, 91. That would give us 5. Okay, that's perfect. Then is double equals true. All right, very nice. And I think that's all we're going to have to do with this reusable Dart class. Whoop. No, I think we're still good here. For the bullseye, number 0, it only has an outer ring and an inner bullseye. There's only a 5% chance that the inner bullseye can be hit. What I'm going to do is handle that inside of the web form application, not here in this application. We're just going to use the is triple if it's the innermost bullseye, and then if it's the outermost bullseye, we just won't set is double or is triple. Okay, that may not be very descriptive to people who come after us who attempt to use our little class library. Maybe we should create a public bool is inner property, but I'm not going to do that for this time. Feel free to do that if you want to. Let's go ahead and move on to our next. All right, the method should populate properties representing the score and whether it landed on a double or triple band or an outer inner bullseye. Okay, we can do that. So next up in the web forms project, you're going to create a game class that contains a logic for the simple game of darts. 2 players will take turns throwing 3 darts per turn. Their respective scores will accumulate after each turn by adding the score from each dart to the player's score. Okay, so it looks like we need a game class and we need a player class or a player variable. I'm going to go ahead and create a class for that. That'll have the player's name and their current score. And then inside of the game class, we're going to need some sort of like a play method that can be called by the OK button click event to kick off the game. So let's go ahead and start there. Let me close that down and actually close that up. And let's go to the project. And first thing I'm going to do is add new web form and set that all up. That'll be something we've done literally 100 times already up to now. So let's go ahead and add a button and a label. And let's put OK. And make this the OK button. And the label, we're going to go result label. Let's empty out all of its text. All right, so that's done. Let's get rid of that. And let's double click the OK button. That's where we're going to kick everything off in the OK button click event. Come back to that in a minute. Now we need to add our new game class where all the action will happen. And I'm also going to add a player class, like I said a moment ago. And the player class will be really simple. It's going to have just a name and a score, like so. And then whenever we are working inside the game class, let's go ahead and create a private player called player1, and then a private player called player2, and then public game in the constructor. We'll go ahead and create, in fact, I tell you what, we're going to allow the consumer, in this case the OK button click event, to pass in 2 names that we'll use for player 1 and player 2. That's not a requirement, just something I'm going to add to this. So string player 1 name, string player 2 name, and then we'll go player 1 equals new player, and then we'll set that player's name, player 1 name, great, and we'll do the same thing with player 2 equals new player, and we'll set player 2's name. right, so we've got all that. Let's move on. Oh yeah, the two players will take turns throwing 3 darts per turn. Their respective scores will accumulate after each turn by adding the score from each dart to the player's score. The first player to reach 300 points wins. Okay, sounds easy enough. So like I said, we're going to need some type of public method that can be called. So I'm just going to call this public void play. I could do play game, either way, doesn't matter. And so what I'm going to do is going to continue to loop while everybody has point values less than 300. So that will continue to keep the game going. So while player 1 dot score is less than 300 and player 2 dot score is less than 300. So if we hit 300, first one to hit 300 or greater will pop out of the while statement. And so what we'll do is we're going to need some sort of way to play around. Play around. And I want to pass in the current player, something like player 1. Now I don't have that, so what I'll do is hit Control period in order to generate a method stub for play around, like so. And let's just change this to player like that. And what we'll want to do here is we're going to loop 3 times. So for tab int I equals 0, I is less than 3. So we'll throw 3 darts, and we're going to create a new instance of the dart and then ask it to throw 3 times. So what I'll need to do is create a reference to our darts assembly. So I'm going to go to the reference manager. Notice what I did, just to remind you, right click on references, select add reference, and then in the reference manager it should automatically go to the solution tab over here on the left, select projects, and then put a check mark next to the darts project in the solution. And we'll go ahead and add a using statement as well, darts like that, so that we can create a new dart. And so dart equals new dart, and I need to pass in an instance of random. Okay, so let's do that up here. Let's do another private random underscore random, and then here whenever we call the constructor, we'll go random equals new random, like so. Very nice. And we'll pass in the random like that. All right, good. Now we'll call dart.throw, and then we'll be able to retrieve off of it the properties for that dart. And so that's where the scoring comes in. So to do score the dart. We'll come back to that in a minute. Okay. So I want to call this twice for 2 play rounds, and here we're going to send in player 2. All right, until their scores, at least one of their scores equals 300 or greater. Okay. All right, so let's see where we're at now. First player to reach 300 points wins, so we're going to need some way to display the winner as well. So let's just say after we break out, we have to assume that somebody won. So let's call this display results. And so since I'm going to be calling this, I want to be passing back. Okay, let me start over. Whenever somebody clicks the button, we're going to fire off the new game. So let's go ahead and create a new instance of game. So game equals new game. And then I'm going to give the, well, I guess I'll need to pass in a player name. So player 1 and player 2, very unoriginal. And then we'll call game.play. And then I want to display the result for this in the result label.text equals. So how am I going to get it back from there? I'm going to expect back a string result from calling game.play, and we'll just display that. Now, obviously, that means that we're going to have to modify the play method from void to return type string. So let's go ahead and do that like so, and then that means we would have to return the display, whatever comes back from display results, which means that display results needs to return a string. So let's see, yes. Now, I don't really have any specific format that I want to do this in. String result equals string dot format, and we'll go player 1, then their score, then we'll take a line break, and then we'll go player 2's name, and then their score, and then we'll tack onto that later. So let's see what we have so far. We'll go player 1 dot name and player 1 dot score, player 2 dot name, and then player 2 dot score. All right, so let's separate these out on multiple lines so we can read that. And then we also want to display who the winner is. So I'm going to be kind of creative here. You could do this in 2 or 3 lines of code. I'm going to try and do it in 1 line of code. So we want to return the result, but we're going to take whatever the result is from the previous line of code, line number 39 and following, and we're going to tack onto that the word winner, and we're going to display in here who the winner is. Now, here's what we're going to do. We'll use that ternary operator. So I'll go player 1 score. If it's greater than player 2's score, player 2 dot score. All right. Then we want to return back the player name, player 1's name. Otherwise, return back player 2's name. All right. See that it accepts that. That's a pretty tricky line of code, right? So we're going to concatenate whatever currently is in the result variable, and we're going to add on to that the word winner, and then depending on who won, we'll either return player 1's name as the winner or player 2's name as the winner. I like that little line of code. That's cool. And you can split this out if you want to. In fact, I'll just do that so you can see it a little bit easier. All right, so that should be sufficient for display results. We'll return that back. We're all good, but we still need to create the score. Let's see where we're at here. Yeah, we need to concern ourselves with the score. So in the Web Forms project, create a score class that contains a static method that'll calculate the score for a dart throw. All right, so let's go ahead and add a new class, and we're going to call this score. And we'll just create a public static void score dart. I guess I could return the score as an integer. Either way would probably work. But here's what I'm going to do instead. There's a bunch of different ways we can go about this. I'm going to go ahead and allow this to be modified right inside here. So you're going to pass in the player, and then you're going to pass in the dart. Well, we're going to need to add a using statement to get the dart's namespace in there. And so we'll want to pass in a player and a dart. And then what we'll do is modify that player score equals, whatever. We'll come back to that in a moment. But that's our plan. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little private variable called, int score. All right, now what we're going to do is if the dart dot is triple, then we'll set score equals dart dot whatever the score was times 3. Else, if the dart dot is double, Then we'll take whatever the score is, and then score times 2, and then just else the score equals the dart's score. All right. However, if we're working with a bullseye situation, we got something else to worry about. Remember, bullseye is going to be 0. So if the dart dot is triple, so that will indicate the inner of the two. Let's go back to our little illustration here. I closed it down. Let's go. Come on, you. There we go. Remember, there's an inner bullseye and an outer bullseye, the red versus the green. If it's the red, we want to give it 50 points. If it's in the green, we give it 25. We decided that we're going to use the is triple property of the dart to indicate whether we are in the inner or the outer bullseye. So, for better or for worse, that's what we're going to go with here. So if the dart is triple and the dart.score is equal to 0, then we're going to set the score equal to 50. And then else, if the dart.score is 0, but is triple is not true, then we'll set the score equal to 25. I think that'll work. And now finally what we want to do is set the player score equal to our local variable score. So we've gone over 6 lines of code here, which it's not cool. I would prefer not to do that. I probably could break that out, but again, I added in here that these are simply guidelines. If you can't do that, no worries. So I'm going to forgive myself. All right, cool. So I think that is all we'll need to do with the score. Obviously, we want to test that out. Oh yeah, we got to use it actually here. And where are we using that at? Oh, right, we're going to score the dart right here. So how do we do this? So we're going to call score.scoreDart. We're going to pass in the given player and the dart. And it should take care of the rest for us. It should modify that player. We're giving it a reference to the player. It's going to modify the score, right? Let's make sure it does that. I'm concerned the score isn't going to do this right. This is what I was concerned about. I almost messed up. It needs to be plus equal. Since we're modifying score, we want to take the existing score and add on whatever this local variable is. Good. Whew. Glad I caught that before. It was too late. Something didn't feel right about that. It was my spidey sense kicked in, I guess. Okay, let's see what we got now. We need to kick this off, right? Do we have what we need there? I think we do. Let's see what we've got. Let's go and run the application. I completely expect it to blow up. And if it doesn't, that's awfully scary to me. All right, well, I guess that's possible. Let's go ahead and put that winner on a separate line. I don't know how that happened. Let's go back to the game. So we want to put the winner like that on a separate line. And then let's run it again. All right, that looks like it worked. Let's play it again. That looks like that worked. Let's play it again. All right, good. Player 1 wins for once. I was a little bit worried about it being always player 2. All right, I think it works. All right, so if you didn't use the exact technique that I used, no worries. If the instructions were a little unclear to you, I know there was a lot of text there. No worries. Again, besides learning about object instances and static classes and creating assemblies, class libraries and things of that nature, this is just another chance for you to struggle with instructions and turn text into a working application. And hopefully it was useful from that perspective for you. Okay, great. So we're going to continue on. We'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.